Broadcasting live from an undisclosed location. This is the TCMMA podcast with your host, Chris Cross.
Whoa!
Dana White privilege.
Let's go, baby! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go, baby!
Dana White privilege. Privilege.
Welcome to the TCMMA podcast. It's your boy and your host, Chris Cross. And I think we're live. I think we are anyway. Live for the first time on Facebook. So this is exciting. Welcome, new viewers as you join in. Be sure to leave comments, get involved in the chat, and we will respond to those, of course, if I can figure it out, which I think I will. But listen, got a lot to cover today. Wild night last night at USC Paris. You could tell the Paris crowd was completely into it. It's just so exciting when they go to different countries. So we're going to get into that wild night here in a moment. Also, Dana White's Contender Series, Week 8 out of 10. We're going to get into that. We're in the final stretch, thank goodness, because these Tuesday night fights combined with Saturday is just wearing me out. It's absolutely wearing me out. And then, of course, in college football, you got all types of things going on. NFL going down today. And, of course, this is an MMA show, but, you know, I got problems.
Well, Christopher, then you know what? Then maybe that you've got a problem because
Yeah, I got a problem. My problem is that I'm addicted to sports.
you've got a problem because you've got a problem because you've got a problem because
Yeah, I'm addicted to sports. And I wonder if there's like AA meetings for like people who are addicted to sports. And like, what do you talk about? Do you talk about your favorite team and how if they lose, that you're not going to watch them for the rest of the season? Because if that's the case, then I might as well give up on football right now. Florida State is absolutely garbage. You know, and here's where the problem lies, right? Like my team's 1-3 and I watch the game and I think they're going to win by 40 points. So I got a serious problem. And of course they lose by like 40 or 30 something or, 40. It's just terrible. It's absolutely terrible. Miami Dolphins 1-2. Quarterback's out for another 3 weeks. We got to go 2-1 in the next 3 to salvage the season. And that's going to be very difficult, but at least we got a new quarterback. So there's some, so my problem is in all sports, even when I'm coaching, is that even if my team isn't supposed to win, like I go into the game believing that we're going to win. Absolutely 100% die hard. And that's a problem because then when you lose, it's like you look back and you're like, I should have known we were going to lose. Like, what was I thinking? Why did I get myself all excited? But that's something that's never going to change. And it's the same with the UFC and MMA as a whole. Like I always believe my picks are going to be right. But more importantly, I believe my favorite fighters are going to win, like Khamzat Chimaev, John Jones, Alex Pereira, and right now that's going well. But on any given day, it could fall. Remember, I was a big Roy Jones Jr. fan, believed he would never lose. And when he lost, I was in shock. So that's the problem I got is I watch too many sports, and worse, I believe my teams are always going to win, and that's not always the case. And I preface this because last night was absolutely terrible at UFC Paris. At one point, we were 6-2 and then lost 6 straight fights, and all the big ones. And I went against the French fighters in almost all of them, and except for 2. And of course, the 2 I went, they lost. And the ones I didn't go with the French fighters, those 4 won. So it was just one of those nights. And let's just jump right into it. First reaction of the night last night, which I think is Pharisee. I can't remember. But let's get into it right now, and then we'll catch up. Now, Oki lands a takedown, but it's Duncan who locks something in here, and Oki's in a world of trouble. And this was my fear. If it goes to the ground, Duncan could pull this thing off. Oh, he's got it locked, man. Oki's going to have to tap. Boy, he's trying to pull out of it. I don't know how he's holding on here. Now Duncan gets the legs wrapped around. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. And Oki's fighting this thing off. I don't know how. I do not know how. Boy, and Oki might stay in this thing here, and he does. The crowd's going crazy. Oh, he's done. He's done. Wow. And Duncan released it, and Oki wasn't fighting back, and that's it. And I thought so. I mean, he had this thing locked in forever. And Duncan kept having it, or Oki had his hands on the ground in push-up style and looked like he was fine. And Duncan let it go, and there was no fighting back. Chris Duncan gets the victory. And I had a bad feeling that would happen. 0-1 to start the night on a very, very tough card in Paris. Chris Duncan gets the win. He's going to move to 12-2 here. 1 of 5, I believe, lightweight fights on the night here at UFC Paris. Yeah, and we'll look at all these predictions here toward the end of the reactions, but basically we start out slow, 0-2, and then we win, 5 or 6 straight to get to 6-2 before the big crash. So, that was Chris Duncan finishing Balaji Oki to start the night. And, this thing started slow, but then it amped up throughout the night. Like as we get into Ferricium and Mafrovola, I had Mafrovola winning, and this is the beginning of the crash in the main card. But check this finish out, and this got the crowd crazy because Ferricium is from France, right? So here we go. Roll looking to take the back now. Ziam gets out of it. Now Ziam's looking to take him down. Look at this, picking him up. And he does. Rivola's pinned up against the fence. And this French crowd is on the verge of just going crazy. They want to finish so bad. A win would do as well, which it seems like Ziam would definitely get here at this point. He's just got to really ride out the clock. But it's the crowd who's just on its feet wanting to finish. And this French crowd has just been like this all day. Oh, flying knee! Oh my gosh! What? Faris Ziam. And the crowd is going crazy in Paris. Dang, man. Not who I thought would win, but what a finish. And he just, he caught Frivola going down, probably to get the head on the hip, and boom, he was jumping at the same time. And the crowd went crazy. Please show that again. Okay, here we go. So Frivola is trying to spin. Oh, and it's Ziam who pushes the head down. And man, and lands another 2 after that. So big win, huge win for the crowd, for Paris, for Faris Ziam. He's going to move to 16-4 here. The lightweight division, baby, never lets down. I'm telling you, the lightweight division never lets down. Here at UFC Paris. Yeah, so Faris Ziam gets the big finish last night, and the crowd, again, is going crazy at this point. Faris Ziam from France, and it's different when it's in other countries. I mean, they're singing and dancing, and well, maybe not so much dancing, but they're singing like a soccer match. And it's just wild to see because you don't see that in America. And the American fighters just get used to fighting in America. But when it goes to another country, and it's not every day it comes to their country, the place is going crazy. And that's what was happening. Now, in the next fight, sort of the same. Morgan Sherry, the home crowd, favorite. I thought Gabriel Miranda would finish him in the first round because the guy's got 16 submissions in 17 fights. But he was a huge underdog. And I guess it was for a reason. Round 2 on deck and making me a little nervous. Sherry got through that round, so I really thought Miranda, even though he's a heavy underdog, would get the submission in round 1. Guy's got 16 submissions in 17 fights. 16 and 17, that's crazy. Oh, nice leg kick by Sherry. And Miranda misses on a big left. Oh, big left by Morgan Sherry. Finishes it. Back-to-back finishes for the Paris crowd. And they're going bananas. They're going crazy. Unbelievable, man. And Morgan Sherry's loving it. He's jumping on top of the fence. And the crowd is loving it, man. And, you know, when you're waiting for a big event like this from the UFC to come to your town, and you start the main card with 2 KO finishes, yeah, that's going to get you crazy. And we got 4 more French fighters coming up after this. So Morgan Sherry gets the big win. He's going to move to 20-10. I'm surprised. But listen, I'm not surprised when you do it in front of the home crowd. That was the tough part about this week's predictions, and Sherry made me pay. Here, UFC, Paris. Yeah, it made me pay in a big way, and the losing streak is underway at this point. I mean, we're losing, what do we lose now? Back-to-back fights. After that one, and guess what? It wouldn't get better. We would go on to lose the next 4. So, you know, just when you think you know it all and things are going great, you realize I don't know that much. Because then in the next one, you know, you had Kevin Jousset, home crowd favorite, taking on Brian Battle, and I expected this to be a very close fight. And inside, I'd like to see Brian Battle win because he's American on the road, but I didn't think it would happen, and he absolutely surprised me yesterday. Check this out. Battle beginning to open up now. 135 left in round number 2. And Jousset's looked good so far, but Battle hasn't let down. And I don't know if Jousset's going to be able to hang in with this activity. Come on, Jousset. Oh, and Battle's opening up now. Jousset's in trouble. Here it comes. Big right. Another right. Another right. Get in there, Dean. Get in there, Herb Dean. Get in there. Yes. What a big win for Brian Battle. Not my prediction, but at the same time, what a big victory for him, walking into Paris, France, and beating the home fighter after the crowd saw 2 KOs in their favor. So they were pumped for this fight, and Battle still gets the win, sits on top of the fence. He's giving the finger to the crowd, and now he's blowing kisses. So he's all over the place. But that's just emotion, man. Wow. Wow. And that finished fast. That finished fast. Brian Battle's going to move to 12-2 with the big victory. The crowd doesn't like it, but you can't win every one. In this one, the American Brian Battle closes the door on Kevin Jousset here at UFC Paris. Yeah, so Brian Battle coming up big on the road. The American wins in France, getting the finish. And of course, the crowd didn't like it. He gives him, he gives him the middle finger. And the crowd's booing like crazy. And then, then he sits on top of the cage and he's kind of blowing kisses and all that. And then in the post-fight interview, he's going off on the crowd again, just saying, I love it. I love it. And why wouldn't you? You got the big finish on the road. That's not easy to do. It's not easy to do at all, but it would happen again. It would happen again in the main event. I thought for sure Benoit Saint-Denis would put up a good fight. It didn't happen. He got absolutely dominated by Renato Moicano, and this is what it sounded like leading up to the doctor stoppage. Now the doctor's putting numbers in front of Benoit Saint-Denis. So far, so good. Now he's covering up the good eye. Oh, gosh. He said 2 fingers, but I don't know if he can see. Someone might be tapping him on the behind. And the doctor's really looking at it, and I don't know. He's going back to the corner now. The crowd is not going to like this if Saint-Denis gets stopped. Oh, that's going to be it, I think. It's not official yet, but the doctor's saying no. Oh, no. No, no, no. Yeah, he can't see on the right side. Oh, my gosh. Oh. Dang. What a bet. We finished the night on 7 straight losses. How many? 6 and 8. 6 straight losses to end the night. Wow. And Renato Moicano dominated Benoit Saint-Denis. And he's showing respect to the French crowd by lifting his hand. And, the thing is Benoit Saint-Denis got dominated, especially in the first round. And he didn't quit. The doctor had to make him stop, and he still wanted to fight. So, but Moicano gets the win here. He's going to move to 19-5. Benoit Saint-Denis, 20-5. Benoit Saint-Denis will fall to 13-3. Great fight. 42-21 in significant strikes for Renato Moicano. 66-34 in total strikes. 38-10 in head strikes. And it was that 453 of control in round 1 on that one takedown where he just continually pounded away with the ground and pound to get the victory here in the lightweight division. Never lets down. Main event here at UFC Paris. Yeah, so that's the way it turned out. We lost that one too, losing 6 straight. Just a terrible night for the predictions. If Saint Denis comes through, at least we finish 7-7, and we get the main event, which is still a plus. But it just didn't turn out that way. And here's how it looked. Right, early on, we lose the first two in fights 13 and 14, and we go on a major 6-fight win streak. We're 6-2. It's like, oh, this is going to be a great night. I know I'm going to lose some here down the stretch because I took a lot of chances, but I didn't expect to lose 6 straight. That's terrible. So we go from 6-2 to 6-8. We lose the main event, so we fall now 2 in a row, back-to-back weeks, from 18-12 to 18-14. But we're still 234 and 155 overall. But in the losing streak, Mafrovola fell, Miranda fell, Giuseppe fell, Brito, Allen, and Saint Denis fell. And the one that surprised me is Brendan Allen, because he came out and dominated the fight early and then fell apart in rounds 2 and 3 and just began to tire. So how's he going to do in a 5-round fight? He's just not ready. And when you control a guy for the entire first round, sometimes that backfires because you're using a lot of energy when you're on top trying to maintain position. So, that's the way it worked out, and it just didn't go well last night. But listen, the sun comes up the next day, and in terms of the UFC, we got the Contender Series. That's ahead of us. And we've been doing pretty well in the Contender Series despite the fact that these are fighters we don't know very well, right? I mean, these are going to be guys we don't know quite as well. But thankfully, we're going 3-2 each week, 4-1. We did have one week where it didn't go great. But the bottom line is we've been rolling through the Contender Series this season. And let me just get that pulled up real quick so you can kind of see what's happening here. Now this is the women's divisions. Not many women fighters in. But you got Alexia Thanar, 11-1, strawweight. You got 2 bantamweights in there. Flyweights in there. In Duben, undefeated, 6-0. Kolari, 8-2. But the men's divisions are beefing up, especially the bantamweight division, which now has 6 fighters signed. Featherweight's got 4. Lightweight, Ahmad Hassanzada, 12-3, lightweight. And, you're not going to see a lot of lightweight fighters come through the Contender Series because that division is so deep, it's ridiculous. Middleweight division doing pretty well, too. It's got 5 signed. That's the 185-pound division for you newcomers. Welterweight's got 3. Light heavyweight at 205's got 3. Heavyweight's got 3. So, I mean, you look right there, you got 5, 3, that's 8. Another 6, you got 14 fighters in the top 4 divisions. So there's some beef coming into the UFC, including a couple guys that are like 6'7", 6'8". So what are they going to do in the future? So it's ridiculous. Dana White has signed 24 fighters so far this season. So it's rocking and rolling in a big way. So let's get to the Contender Series, the first fight of the night. And we got 4 because the co-main event I'll explain later is kind of a ridiculous setup and hard to get information on. But we'll explain that when we get there. So welterweight division, 170 pounds. Jacoby Smith, 8-0. Christian Savoy, 10-1. Let's get into that one right now. In the welterweight division at Dana White's Contender Series, you got Jacoby Smith taking on Christian Savoy. And you got to love this one, kicking things off in Week 8. Let's dive right in. Smith, 8-0. Savoy, 10-1. Smith, 3 inches taller at 6'2". He's fighting out of USA, by the way. Savoy fighting out of Canada. Smith, 28. Savoy, 32. So let's dig deeper into Jacoby Smith first in his 8 wins. Remember, no losses. 6 KOs, 2 decisions. And he's been fighting out of Fury FC for the last 5 fights, all by win. 3 of them KO, 2 decisions. So I like that. Now, Savoy, on the other hand, he's got the 10 wins, right? 1 loss. 7 wins by KO, 3 by decision. He was submitted once against Basile Hafez, a guy we've heard of at Cage Fury Fighting Championships. Then he fights out of FLA. Fights 1 fight to a draw, but then won the last 2. So, this one's kind of easy for me. Yeah, I'm concerned about the 10 wins by Savoy. You really shouldn't hold the 1 loss and draw against him, but the fact is, there was a loss and a draw. Jacoby Smith is yet to lose. So, I got no choice at at least a Contender Series, which when you look up and down all the contracts Dana White's given, you don't see many undefeated fighters. So it doesn't mean Jacoby Smith is definitely going to come in here to win. I just like the fact that he's undefeated. He's American. He lands KOs 75% of the time up to this point. And I just got to believe he's going to win the fight. That's what I think is going to happen. Jacoby Smith wins this thing by second round KO, in my opinion. Could go to a decision. It always could go to a decision. But I'm leaning towards second round KO in this one for Jacoby Smith to move to 9-0 and get in. Welterweight division. Dana White's Contender Series. All right, so we're rocking and rolling with Jacoby Smith. And again, we don't know these guys as well. We look up the old, the fights that they've had, but it's against fighters you never heard of and smaller promotions. And you're looking at momentum. You're looking at how many wins and losses. And in this one, I want to see the undefeated guy get in because we don't have many undefeated guys this year through the Contender Series. We got a lot of guys that are like 14-1. And then you see they lost to a UFC fighter, so they're a high prospect. Like one guy lost to Jean Silva, who's really good, so he's virtually undefeated, but he's got one loss on his record, right? So we don't know these fighters as well, but we still find ways to break it down. And it's a little harder because I rely on the stats heavily. Like how many strikes are landing per minute, what's their takedown average, what's their takedown defense, and then look at who they fought, right? It's a little harder with the Contender Series to get that information because the stats don't really begin until they fight in the UFC. But nonetheless, we've had a good season for sure. Now as we move up one into fight 4, started with a welterweight, now we're moving into middleweight. Excuse me, and you can see how the UFC is trying to beef up the bigger divisions. Now Torres Fene makes his return again. He's 9-0, taking on David Urami out of Spain. So this is USA versus Spain, and Urami is 7-1. So let's get into that fight right now. In the middleweight division at Dana White's Contender Series, your co-main event, you got David Urami coming in at 7-1, taking on Torres Fene. Comes in at a perfect 9-0. Now, Ramey, as we'll call him, is 4 inches taller at 6 feet. He's a tall middleweight. Well, not tall. Fene actually is just short at 5'8". Ramey's 28, Fene 25. Fene's been here before, 76-inch reach. He fights right-handed. Less than 1 significant strike per minute in the last fight, but had multiple takedowns. And that's not going to get the job done, right? When you come in, you need to get finishes. More on that in a minute. Now, Ramey, in his 7 wins, 5 KOs, 2 decisions. He's fighting out of Spain. In the 1 loss, it was by KO, and that was back in 2019. So it's been a while. Now, Torres Fene, in his 9 wins, 6 KOs, 1 submission. All right? So you have that, but then he comes in against Cameron Ralston, and it goes to a decision. And now all of a sudden he's a takedown specialist who's not landing a lot of significant strikes. So he wins by decision. Dana White says no. But guess what? He gets another chance. He probably pleaded for another chance. At least you would hope he would. But listen, he didn't lose, so he gets another opportunity. Before he got here, he won by TKO at Combat Night, fought at Dana White's Contender Series in 2023 as well. So this will be his 3rd fight at the Contender Series. And, it's crazy because Dana White's probably second guessing his decision, but last year at the Contender Series, he submitted Yuri Penfarov, then beat Tyson Jeffries, right? Then came back to Contender Series this year and won by decision. And, in both of these fights, he got 1 submission, but in the second fight, it was kind of a boring decision of just control time. So, Dana White's probably thinking I should have just taken this guy before when he got the submission, but now I can't take him in a fight like that, especially when there's 4 or 5 other good fighters on this card. This was a fight that was on a great card, and he didn't get in. But I still think Torres Fene has a good opportunity to come in here and win, but he's going up against a good fighter, right? A guy that's a KO specialist who's probably going to get taken down. And Fene, hopefully if you're Fene, I don't think you come in here and change your game plan, right? I look for the takedown and then submission. Because if you're going up against a guy that's got 5 KOs and you're thinking, okay, the submission didn't get me in. Dominant control of nearly 14 minutes in a 15-minute fight didn't get me in. So I guess what Dana White's saying is I need a KO. And if he thinks like that, he's liable to get KO'd. So he's got to be careful. Torres, if you're listening to this, You got to be careful in this fight. Don't worry, I know you want to get into the UFC, but don't change what you're doing. That's why you're 9-0. If it's control time is the way you got to win the fight, that's how you win the fight. And you just keep winning, right? If you keep winning, they can't deny you. So, we'll talk about this during the reaction to this fight at some point too, I'm sure. But listen, Finney's just got to come in with his normal game plan and get to 10-0 and let the chips fall where they may. Now, with other guys, I'll say you need to get the finish, you need to do this, yeah, but he's already won twice at the Contender Series. You go 3-0 with the Contender Series and you're 10-0 overall, I think the UFC's got to let you in. I don't care how you win the fight, all right? So, hopefully he doesn't make a mistake and trip up here, but I like Torres Finney to win the fight, to move to 10-0. It's just hard to say how at this point, but he can definitely dominate on the ground and hopefully get the submission, and that's what it is. Middleweight division, Dana White's Contender Series.
And I really hope Torres Finney sees this prediction at some point, because I have a feeling he's going to go in and try to impress and get the finish and get caught in a bad position. But the guy's got tremendous ability to take you down and control you for the fight, which is not always popular, especially when you're trying to snag a UFC contract. President Dana White wants to see a finish, and that could get you in a world of trouble. So hopefully he doesn't make that mistake. If he doesn't and he just wins, he gets in. Now in the next fight, bantamweight division, we already got 6 locked in. UFC's trying to beef up this division for obvious reasons. You got David Martinez 10-1 versus Xavier Franklin, who's kind of new, but a perfect 5-0. So Mexico versus USA in this one. Check it out.
In the bantamweight division at Dana White's Contender Series, you heard that right. Bantamweight division, there's already 6 fighters in. This better be a good one. You got David Martinez taking on Xavier Franklin. Martinez 10-1, Franklin 5-0. Mexico versus USA. Franklin out of USA is 1 inch taller at 5'6". That's about all we know about these guys. Digging a little deeper into the record of Martinez, again from Mexico, he's 10-1, right? 9 KOs, 1 decision. He lost once by decision, and that was back in 2021. Since then, he's run off 6 straight wins. Most recently against Jose Zaru at Combat Global, where he's been fighting out of, and he's won the last 4 by KO. So you see why he's getting the opportunity. Now, Franklin, aka Mr. Benjamin. I like it. Benjamin Franklin. Okay. Yes, sir. He's got 2 KOs, 1 submission, and 2 decisions from Louisville, Texas. All right. Interesting. So most recently, he landed a TKO against Isaiah Gutierrez at Peak Fighting, Summit Series 2, and he's been fighting there over the last 3 fights, which he's won 1 by submission, 1 by decision, and 1 by TKO. So, okay. So, interesting. So you got a guy that can land KOs in Martinez, aka the Black Spartan, right? And another guy that has just 5 wins, that can win in a multitude of ways, who's really unproven at this point, but is yet to lose. He did have a no contest, so you can wipe that clean, but he's virtually undefeated going all the way back into the amateur fights. He was 5-0. So, oof. So this guy's really good. So the record, is 5-0, 5-0-1. Excuse me. Oh, they did list that as a loss. That's right. But he's basically 10-1. So this is going to be an interesting fight. Man, I'm really concerned with the experience of his opponent. I love the nickname though, but that doesn't mean anything. And I'd like to see Xavier Franklin get the win. And maybe I'll pay for this, and it'll be one that I'll be happy to pay for if I get it wrong. But I got to go with David Martinez, man. 9 KOs in 10 fights. So, Mr. Benjamin Franklin, I can't go with you. But if you win, I'd love to have a name like that in the UFC. But yeah, David Martinez likely by KO. I mean, I don't know though. Xavier Franklin hasn't really lost a fight. Truly. So it's going to be interesting. This is going to be a good fight. And the bantamweight division is so deep at the Contender Series with already 6 fighters getting in at the time of this recording. Could be more by the time this fight takes place, but you already got 6 in. But I think Martinez is going to win this thing by KO first round to move to 11-1 bantamweight division. Dana White's Contender Series.
Yeah, so going to be a highly interesting fight. Again, 6 fighters in the bantamweight division already in. And we're thinking David Martinez, the American fighter, gets in to make it 7. But when you already got 6, you got to be impressive here. You got to know the situation, and you probably got to get a finish, and that's not always easy. But David Martinez will get the win here, in my opinion. And actually, he's a Mexican fighter. Made a mistake. Mr. Benjamin Franklin, of course, is the American fighter. Should have known better. So yeah, Mexico gets in on this one. Now, in the co-main event, we did not do the prediction yet because the fight is now changed. It's supposed to be Robbie Ring, who a lot of people want to see fight. But you got a guy in Adriel Montes. Adriel Montes is listed as 0-1. And I only see that he lost to Sean Strickland. Now, I know he's probably had other fights since 2010 against Sean Strickland, if that's even right. So we didn't do that prediction yet, trying to research and find more. It's hard to believe a guy is 0-1 coming into the UFC. So we're going to skip right to the main event. And it's a light heavyweight division fight. Big time fight, right? As the UFC continues to beef up the bigger divisions. And this will round it out for week 8. This is Diyar Nurgozhay, 9-0 versus Bartosz Szewczyk. If I even said that right, he's 8-2. This is Kazakhstan versus Poland. Check it out. In the light heavyweight division at Dana White's Contender Series, you got Diyar Nurgozhay taking on Bartosz Szewczyk. So I probably jacked both of those names up, so please forgive me. Let's get into it. Diyar is 6'2", Bartosz 6'4", he's 2 inches taller. That's about all we know in terms of the setup here. Now, we do know Diyar is fighting out of Kazakhstan. He's 9-0, he's got 5 wins, 2 submissions, 2 decisions in those 9 wins. So he can finish you by KO or submission. Recently, he fought at UAE Warriors 50 and beat Emiliano Sordi. This was back in May of 2024. He won that fight by TKO. The previous 2, he won at Eagle FC by decision. So you know someone's probably been in his ear about this guy. Now, Bartosz fighting out of Poland. Remember, he's 8-2. He's got 2 losses. 6 wins by KO, 1 by submission, 1 by decision. The 2 losses, 1 by submission, 1 by decision. His last loss was in January of 2023 at FEN 44. So not a big promotion. Then he came back and fought Lucchese Klinger to a draw and has since won 3 in a row. Right? But UAE Warriors 45 was probably the biggest win. So both of these guys got wins at UAE Warriors, a decent promotion. So it's going to be an interesting fight. But what I'm seeing in this one is the fact that both guys can land KOs. My concern here is that Bartosz has lost before. Yes, by decision. He hasn't been finished. Definitely is not. Well, actually, excuse me. He was finished by Szymon Bajor back in 2021. But in the last 3 years, he hasn't been finished. But at the same time, Diyar is a finisher, man. This guy is a finisher, and he's shown he can take it to the ground multiple times, and he can stand up and land KOs, and he can go to long haul. So to me, Diyar is 9-0 for a reason. He's shown he can do it every which way. There's no reason to believe that he's going to lose his fight. I'm going with Kazakhstan in this one. Diyar wins, in my opinion. Probably by decision, but it'd be better for him if he can get a finish here in the light heavyweight division. Dana White's Contender Series. Yeah, so a very close fight here in the light heavyweight division. It's going to be very interesting to watch and see who gets in. What we know about the Contender Series is week over week, even though there was 5 last week in week 7 to get contracts, it's harder and harder week over week because you already got established fighters that are definitely in. The bigger divisions are loaded, and these guys got to put on a show. I mean, if you get a finish, it's hard to deny you. So the finish is the key here at the Contender Series. But that's a wrap, man. UFC Paris, a wild night. Terrible for us, but the sun comes up, and we got Contender Series on Tuesday, and then of course coming on Wednesday, the big prediction show for UFC 307, Alex Pineda versus Khalil Roundtree. Khalil Roundtree Jr. gets a shot at the title. So we'll be back in a few days with another podcast, but want to get into some reactions and some predictions. Until next time, this is your boy Chris Cross. Hope you have a great day, and God bless. As always, peace.